I won't be before you long. If you're in our Bible one-on-one small group, this is going to be a familiar text today, a familiar story today. But hopefully we can dig down into this and pull out some things that you possibly didn't see first. Let's go to Genesis chapter 37. If you're real keen in the word, you already know what's going on because you can see what's behind me right there. Genesis chapter 37 said, Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with his sons, the sons of Bilhah, the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son in his old age. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors, or a coat of many colors. But when his brothers saw their father loved him more than all the brothers, they hated him and could not speak to him peaceably. All right, so for the next few minutes, we're going to talk to you on this subject, the other side of favor. The other side of favor. All right, and so in this story, I want y'all to work. When we're going to work down through this story and see what the Spirit's going to pull out. Joseph was 17. Y'all remember y'all was 17 when you knew everything? Y'all remember that? Any of y'all got a 16, 17, 18-year-old that knows? It's amazing how smart they are. They know everything, right? And you know nothing. Right? Nothing. You know, that's that age. That's that age where you have, in psychology, we call it magical think. Like whatever I think it should be, that's the way it is. Right? And so Joseph, keep in mind, Joseph was 17, but he had something special about him. Right? The Bible says in chapter 37 and 3 that Israel loved him more than all his brothers. Than all his children, even to the point where he even gave him a coat of many colors to show that he was special. But let me tell you something about favor. The other side of favor is that favor will make you famous, but it'll also make you enemies. And this boy had dreams. And oh, did he have dreams. Let's look at Genesis 37, 5 through 7. It said, Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. So they already hated him, but they hated him all the more. He said to them, listen to this dream I had, brothers. We were binding sheaves in the field, and suddenly my sheaf arose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. So he was telling folks about their future when they couldn't even handle the present. And can I teach this point for a minute before we move on? Sometimes your mouth will get you in trouble more than your mistakes. So sometimes you got to know when to shut up. You know, and he had revelation, but he also had immaturity. It's one thing to have a word from God, but it's another thing to know when to say something. It's no one other thing to know when to speak. So he had another dream. If that wasn't enough, he said this time the moon, the 11 stars, all of them bowed down to him. So even at this point, Jacob and Israel, his daddy had to check him and say, all right now, Joseph, you're doing too much. But if you look in the Bible, it says that Israel kept the matter in mind, he thought about it. He said it, but he thought about it. And so one day, you know, Joseph was out, his brother was out in the field. Joseph went over to Shechem. He asked the man, said, hey, you see my brother? He said, no, they're over there in Dothan. Dothan. Anybody from Dothan, Alabama? Dothan, they're over there in your hometown. They're over there in Dothan. So he went over there to find them. And when they saw him coming up, they said, here comes that dreamer. They said to each other, they said, come now, let's kill him. And throw him in one of these pits and say that an animal devoured him. But this is what they messed up. They said, when we do that, they said, then we will see what comes of his dreams. Let us kill him. And then they said, give me that slide. Then we'll see what comes of his dream. So I want to stop right here. That they called him that dreamer. With disdain, with contempt. But church, let me tell you that they couldn't kill the dream by killing the dreamer. And I'm here to say that even though Martin Luther King did a lot when he was on earth, the potency of his dream came into effect after they killed him. Because even right now, years later, we're still living out that dream. So they can kill you, but they can't kill your purpose. They can't kill your message. So basically what they were doing was they were becoming a part of God's bigger plot. And then Reuben had some conversations. Y'all, we don't need to do all that now. We don't need to kill the boy. He said, let's just throw him in the pit. Now, we don't need to kill him. Let's look at 37:24. It says, so when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and they threw him in a cistern. So they took his coat, but they couldn't take his calling. They took him and they threw him in the pit, and they took his coat. And this was the cold-blooded thing right here. Then they sat down to eat lunch. There's some cold-blooded brothers right there, boy. Boy, you put your brother in a hole. Now, my mom and dad didn't allow us really to fuss and fight like that. We wrestled and stuff, but they didn't allow us to do that. I can't think of anything that any one of my brothers can do to make me want to kill them. And basically what was happening was what we call in psychology misplaced aggression. And so they knew they weren't necessarily jealous of Joseph. They were jealous that Jacob had made Joseph the favorite. And so they knew they couldn't do anything with Jacob. And so what they did, they went to the next thing closest to Jacob, which was Joseph. And so the aggression they wanted to show toward their daddy, they said, let us take the object of my daddy's affection. And so if you want to mess with me, you don't mess with me. You mess with my kids. Like if y'all ever hear about DeAndre Peterson going to jail, you don't even have to read the article. Tell you right now, you ain't got to read it. You're going to already know somebody did something to somebody in their family. Probably them boys. I'm be in jail. Right? And it's going to be serious because I ain't never been in jail. I'll be a first-time offender lady in jail. Because if it's serious enough, somebody finna be in a whole bunch of trouble. Right? And so that's what the enemy does that. If he can't get to you, he'll get to what you love. So I ain't mean to go here this quick, but the devil knew that he could do nothing with God. And so he thought that he had killed who God sent. But the Bible says 3 days later, he rose with all power in his hand. So he couldn't get to God, so he tried to get his son. And then when he said, I can't get his son, he's coming for you. So Reuben said, let's just put him in a hole. Let's just put him in a hole. And they sitting there eating lunch. Can you imagine that coldness after you put somebody in a pit to die and you still got an appetite? That's some psycho stuff right there. And then they see a caravan of Ishmaelites coming and from Gilead, and Judah said, you know what? Let's just don't put him in a hole. Let's make a profit. Judah said, let's sell him. I don't know which one worse, to leave for dead or to sell him for a profit. Let's sell him. And so what they did, they pulled Joseph out the pit to sell him for 20 pieces of silver. Slide says, 37:28 says, so when the Midianite merchant came by, the brothers pulled him out of the hole. They sold him for 20 shekels of silver, and the Ishmaelites took him to Egypt. And so sometimes the very people who's supposed to protect you will be the ones who will be the ones that'll put you in harm's way that they think. And so the brothers thought they were getting rid of Joseph, but they were actually shipping him to his destiny. And so they said, we got another issue to handle. We got our daddy. And so what they did, they took the coat and they dipped it in some blood and tried to deceive their daddy. They went back to Jacob. And Jacob would start tearing his clothes. He said, no, man, I know y'all ain't killed. This is my favorite. I know y'all ain't killed him. 35 said, I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave. He loved Joseph so much that he was mourning. They had just ate lunch, lied to their daddy, and sat there day after day looking at their daddy cry over something that didn't even happen. But while Jacob was mourning, Joseph was moving. Joseph was moving. And so it said the Midianite sold Joseph into Egypt to Potiphar, one of Potiphar's officials, and the captain of the guard. And so now Joseph here is in Egypt. He's in a foreign land, with a foreign language and a foreign culture. But watch this. The Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in everything he did. So Potiphar sees that everything Joseph touches prosper. Potiphar is a heathen. And he sees the hand of God on Joseph's life. Potiphar is a heathen. He sees that everything that Joseph touches prosper. He had the Midas touch. Everything he touches turned to gold. 39:5 says from the time he put him in charge of his household, all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. So when God blesses you, it's not necessarily just for you, it's through you. And so Joseph brought the blessing with him wherever he went. Don't you know that your job is having the good numbers that is happening because you there? Anybody else been working a job and they did it wrong, they left, and then the business shut down? Think it not strange that the glory left with you. That is favor. That is favor. But then we get to the problem. We get to the problem. Old Potiphar's wife. That old floozy. We get to that old floozy. And so the Bible says that Joseph was a good-looking man. Potiphar's wife just looking at him walking day after day. They never say what Potiphar looked like. He didn't say what he looked like. He was just looking at him. She just looking at him, checking him out. Y'all know how y'all be doing. She just looking at him. And then the Bible said after a while, his master wife took notice and Joseph said, come to bed with me. Let's look at what Joseph did, though. Let's look at Joseph's one. Look at chapter 39, 8 and 9. It says, but Joseph refused. He said, with me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. He said, everything he owns, he is entrusted to my care. He said, no one is greater in this house than I am. He said, my master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. He said, how then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? And so integrity is what you do when nobody is watching except God. And so look at what Joseph did. Joseph didn't say, I can't do this because I might get caught. That's how we do. Like y'all know, y'all don't look at me in that tone of voice. Like y'all know some things you don't do because you're scared to get caught. That's your bed. Can we talk? Can we talk, Joe Lisa? Can we just have the, okay. All right, sometimes we won't do because we don't want to get caught, but he said, I won't do this because it's a sin against God. That's integrity. And so, but day after day, she weighed him down. She persisted. Day after day. Right? And she spoke to Joseph day after day. That's what the Bible said, day after day. Day after day. Right? Keep in mind, how old was he? 17, might have been 18 at that time. Might have been on the whole she was, but he wasn't, he wasn't old enough to be one. If it was consensual. Right, day after they refused. Go to bed. Then one day, when none of the household servants were there, she like, hit my shot. I got my chair. Ain't nobody here, boy, but me and him. Ain't nobody here but me and him. So she grabbed this garment and said, come to bed with me right now. But Joseph left his garment in her hand and ran out the house. Woo! Listen, I'm going to help somebody right here now. Look, I'm going to help somebody. I'm just going to be honest with you. Sometimes you can't pray your way out. Sometimes you got to run your way out. Because you know you. And you know if you stay there long enough, what's about to happen. Sometimes you just got to remove yourself. Sometimes you just got to block them on the cell phone. Because you know if you answer, what's going to happen. I'm just finna block it, otherwise. Because I know they know what to say. You know what I be doing. Right? And so Joseph didn't debate with her. He didn't negotiate with her. He didn't hesitate with her. He evacuated from her. That joker left, but she used his garment as evidence against him. She told her husband, see, this Hebrew slave tried to assault me. And Potiphar, in his anger, had Joseph thrown into prison. But wait, isn't it something that sometimes doing the right thing will land you in the wrong place? You know, sometimes your integrity will cost you your position. But God would rather have you in the pit with purpose than in the palace with compromise. Sometimes he'd rather have you in the pit with purpose than in the palace with compromise. Yeah, you got the job, but how did you get it? Who did you step on to get there? How many lies did you tell to get there? Right, you know on your resume, you ain't got no doctorate. You ain't got a, carry a PhD or MD or EDD. You just lied. So he'll rather have you in the pit with purpose. But isn't it strange though? And we're gonna move on. That this is the second time that somebody tried to pull a garment off of Joseph. His brothers ripped his coat of many colors. Potiphar's wife ripped his garment because the whole time they were trying to get a piece of his favor. But what they didn't understand, but the favor had nothing to do with what was on him. The favor was in him. And so they said, I can just get a piece of this. So she told Potiphar, and Potiphar put him in jail. But a verse earlier said that he was blessed in everything he did. So let's look at chapter 39, 21 said, but while Joseph was in prison, the Lord was still with him. He said he showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the warden. The warden said, Joseph, I'm going to put you over the whole prison. Put you over all the prisoners. So even in prison, the warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care. He said, I ain't even going to look at you. Do whatever you want to do. And he gave him success in whatever he did. See, some of us are worried. I'm saying us, I ain't going to say y'all. Say, as a speaker, you got to be inclusive. Some of us are worried about being in the wrong place. But God is using that place to develop you, to get you to the right person. See, prison became Joseph's university. That's it. That was his training ground. Because that's what happened. One day, the chief cupbearer and the baker messed up. I don't know what they did, but they got thrown in jail. One day, they had a dream. Both of them had a dream on the same night. Let's look at these dreams. Bad way, let's read this. Verses 9 through 19. It said, then the chief butler told his dream to Joseph. He said, behold, my dream, a vine was before me. The vine had 3 branches. It was as though it budded and the blossom shot forth, cluster of ripe grapes and all this. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. Took the grapes, pressed them in Pharaoh's cup, placed them on the cup, Pharaoh's hand. 12, and Joseph said to him, this is the interpretation of it. He said, 3 branches are 3 days. After those 3 days, Pharaoh going to lift you up. He's going to restore you to where you came from. You're going to be put right back in your position. Then the chief baker said, I had a dream too. He said, that's good right there. Chief baker said, I also had a dream. He said, that was 3 white baskets, just like his stuff. On my head, he said, the uppermost basket, all kind of baked goods, and Pharaoh, and the birds hit him, and all that. Joseph said, this is the interpretation of your dream. He said, the 3 baskets are also 3 days. He said, within those 3 days, Pharaoh will lift your head up. Then he's going to hang it on a tree. And the birds will eat your flesh from you. Y'all remember Friday? Not Friday. What that movie when they was on the railroad? Eddie Murphy. Life. That man said, oh, you don't need to read my letter. don't read my letter, boss. Don't read my letter. And so Joseph interpreted both dreams correctly. The cupbearer was restored in 3 days, and in 3 days the baker was executed. And it happened just like Joseph said. But here's the painful part. Genesis 40:23 said the chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. And Joseph told him when he interpreted a dream, he said, when you get restored, remember me. Because I'm down here wrong. I ain't do nothing. The cupbearer said, I got you, bro. You just wait till I get back to Potiphar. I'm going to tell him, I'm putting this in there. I'm going to tell him everything you just did. Sometimes the very people you help will forget you when they get elevated. Just saying sometimes, but this thing, don't stop helping people. Because God remembers even when people forget. 2 years passed. This whole saga went for like 13, 14 years. And we think just because we got the blessing, we got favor, we should get the anointing and promotion next week. 2 years passed after Joseph is in prison. Joseph still is down there. Verse 1 says, but when 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. Pharaoh had this dream. Give me that picture, Pharaoh. Pharaoh had a dream. He said, man, look, man, I'm telling all the magicians. He said, man, I had a dream. I had these. It was 7 fat cows and the 7 little thin cows. And the thin cows ate the fat cows and they still were thin. Then he said, I had another dream like that. He said these big vibrant sheaves rose up. And a little bit of puny sheaves rose up. The little one ate the big one and they still were little. Pharaoh said, I don't understand. Call all these magicians around. Can y'all interpret this dream? And all magicians said, no, Pharaoh, we can't do nothing. And then the cupbearer said, you know what? Something I supposed to tell you. It was something I supposed to been telling you. You remember when you had me in jail? Rightfully so, boss. I messed up. When you had me in jail, there was somebody down there that was interpreting my dream. And I didn't know what was going on, but what he said works. Pharaoh said, go get him. Be glad I wasn't Pharaoh, because I would have put him back in jail for waiting 2 years. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, right? When Joseph shaved his head, changed his clothes, he got cleaned up. And here he is in the house of Pharaoh. So Joseph went from being in the dungeon to dining with royalty in one day. And so when God moves fast. He had been down there in prison for 2 years, but in 24 hours, here he was dining with Pharaoh. Y'all don't pay no attention to that, baby. That just means we got a future. That just means we got a future. So Pharaoh tells Joseph about the dream. He said, look, I heard that you can interpret dreams. Joseph said, not me. It's all God. And then Joseph went to interpret the dream. He said, Pharaoh, let me tell you now. He said, in your dream, he said the 7 years, the 7 fat cows are years of abundance. He said, and the 7 grown sheaves are 7 years of abundance. He said, and the 7 thin cows and the 7 little sheaves are 7 years of famine. he said, what's about to happen is there's about to be 7 years of abundance. He said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to tax the people 20%. Tell everybody to give their tax 20%, and let's gather up everything we can, because after the 7 years of abundance, famine is going to come. And if we got all the grain, everybody got to come to us. And he told Pharaoh, put somebody in charge of this right now. Pharaoh said, well, you be the boss. You the one said it. You do it. Right? And so Pharaoh said, you get in charge. So this 17-year-old right now, he's probably around the age of 30. He went from 13 years of testing. And just one day, God elevated him to prime minister of Egypt. Don't take God long to do nothing. God's promotion don't require applications. When it's your time, guess what? It's your time. There ain't no devil in hell can stop you from what God has planned for you. But the other side of favor is it ain't all good in the middle. So just as Joseph predicted, 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine, but because they were prepared, Egypt has food while other people are starving. Long story short, Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt. So he sent his sons there. Here we go. He sent his sons there. Jacob actually said, the verse that said, why y'all sitting around looking at each other? Y'all know who got grain? What y'all doing? Get up. Get up. So they came to Egypt to buy grain, right? So at that time, Joseph had been elevated to prime minister. So when he got there, y'all know my small group people, they didn't even recognize him. They didn't recognize him. But Joseph recognized them, right? And so Joseph said, I'm going to play with him. See, that's why I can't, I tell my small group all the time, y'all be glad I ain't God. Y'all be glad I ain't God. Because I like snap like, now you dead because it ain't sin. Because I'm God, so I can't sin. So that cross me, boom, you dead. Right? And so they didn't recognize him. So he played with them and all that kind of stuff. But this is the point. They said to one another, surely we have been punished because of what we did to our brother. Now he wants us to go and get Benjamin. We already done lost one. But church, let me tell you something. Sometimes God will put you in a position to hear what people really think about you. He turned away and he started crying. See, and that's the heart of forgiveness right there. Joseph was hurting. Joseph was hurting when it put him in the pit, he didn't cry. They sold him into slavery, he didn't cry. Put him in prison, he didn't cry. But now his brothers were before him, and they said he turned away and he wept. Because he could have got his get back. So my question, what do you do when you'll be rightly justified in hitting back, but the spirit won't let you? What would you do when they come to you for grain, when they've already done you wrong? And everything within you said, slap the taste out the mouth. Getting you nothing. Slap all the taste out the mouth. Every taste bud they got, slap it out. So what would you do? Because I know Joseph was wrestling with this. I know he was going back and forth because he kept testing his brother. He put stuff in their bag to get halfway. He said, y'all go get him and turn him around and all this kind of stuff. The same brother they sold into slavery is now the one with the power to destroy him. What will you do when your favor puts you in a position to make a decision where I can destroy this person or I can bless him? Long story short, Joseph revealed himself. Then his brother still didn't believe who it was. You imagine all that crow they had to eat. All that crow. And then word got to Pharaoh. When we close out right here, I want you to look at this. This is rarely talk. I just want you to hone in next. Give me about 3 minutes. Hone in right here. Right? It said the report got back to Pharaoh saying, Joseph's brothers have come. So Pharaoh said, look, Say to your brothers, load all the animals and depart. Go to a land. Bring your father back, your household. He said, take the fat of the land, or get all this. He said, take some extra cart, change of clothes, and all that kind of stuff. So they got all this stuff because of Joseph. I got a graphic for you. I want to tell you what the modern day representation, money value of all that stuff was. The carts were $42,000. Change of garments, $48,000. Gifts to his father, $40,000. Provision for the journey, $14,000. 300 pieces of silver, $3,000. Fertile land in Egypt, $9 million. So his family got the modern day equivalent of $9.1 million because Joseph was the one that had the favor and he had a purpose on his life. And I'm here to tell you right now, because of the favor and the purpose on your life, God is going to use you to change the whole lineage of everybody in your family. But we can't get distracted when we end up temporarily in the pit. Because Joseph said what was meant for evil, God meant it for good. He didn't see himself as a victim. He saw himself as God's secret weapon. And God has positioned some of you right now to be the secret weapon for your family. God is saying right now, your kids won't have to worry about what you worry about. Your grandkids won't have to worry about what your great-grand. They're going to be the picture on your mantle of your fifth generation grandkid because you remain faithful to God. Because you operated in your favor. Because you understood that a setback is only a setup for a comeback. And some of us right now are dealing with dysfunction like Joseph. Some of us right now are facing false accusation like Joseph. Some of us are in prison like Joseph was. Maybe not a prison, but a prison situation. But you feel trapped. You feel confined. You feel limited. But I came to tell you today, just like Joseph, your location cannot limit the Lord. Your circumstances can't cancel the calling on your life. Joseph's story is your story. The God who was with Joseph in the pit is with you in your pit today. The God who blessed Joseph in prison will bless you in your prison. The one who promoted Joseph will promote you. Some of you have brothers that betrayed you. God is still in control. Your boss may have lied on you. God is still your vindicator, not you. God said, I'll get them right. Your circumstances may look impossible, but God specializes in the impossible. And I don't know who this is for, but somebody came in here today in a pit. And you're leaving with a palace mindset. Somebody came in here with a slave mentality and you're leaving with a CEO mentality. Somebody came in here forgotten and you're leaving here knowing that you are unforgettable to God. Woo! So somebody said, I'm coming out of this pit. Woo! Say, I'm stepping into my palace. Somebody say, what the devil meant for evil, God is turning around for my good, because my story isn't over. My best chapter is still waiting to be written. The Lord is with you, and if God be for you, who can be against you? Say, I'm coming out of this pit. I'm coming out of this pit. I'm walking in my purpose. I'm walking in my favor. Say, God has more inside of me than what you have seen already. And a final note. Then we're going to open this off, though. The way this story ended, this is a message to my entrepreneurs in the room. Aspiring entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, which is everybody in here, because everybody got something in them. They came to Joseph for grain. Famine came. They came to Joseph for grain. Joseph said, what you got? They said, well, we got a little money. He said, give it here. Joseph took their money. He gave them grain. Then their food ran out. They came back to Joseph. He said, we need some more food. Joseph said, what you got? They said, well, you took our money. He said, what you got? They said, we got livestock. He said, give them here. So now Joseph got all the money. Joseph got all the livestock. Eventually, the grain ran out again. They came back to Joseph. They said, hey, we hungry. We need something to eat. Joseph said, what you got? They said, you done took our money. You took our livestock. Joseph said, what you got? They said, we ain't got nothing but our land, our property. They signed all their deeds over to Joseph. Boop, 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 boop. So now Joseph got all the money. He got all the livestock. He got all the land. So they come back, they still hungry. They said, Joseph, you taking our money? You taking our livestock? You taking our property? Joseph said, what you got? Hold on, before I tell you what they said. So if you're an entrepreneur, the fact that somebody can't pay has nothing to do with the fact that you charge what you charge. Because what God has put inside you, the Bible said it will make room for you. It's all that God created us to be creative and for that thing inside of us to provide for us. None of us has a purpose to work with somebody all our life. Do that thing and don't be afraid to charge for it. They said, you got our money, you got our livestock, you got our land. Joseph, what you got? They said, Joseph, just don't let us starve. We'll be your slave. Now Joseph got all the money, all the livestock, all the land, and all the labor. Because he chose to not let his temporary circumstances distract him from his God-given calling and purpose on his life. And I'm telling somebody in here today, you have the favor of God on your life. You said it, he said it over offering. But the question is, can you handle the other side of favor? Because there may be some events you don't get invited to. You ain't gonna get invited to everybody party. Folks gonna talk about you. They're gonna criticize you. They're gonna think that you think you somebody, and you are. Right? They're gonna think you stuck up. Right? They're gonna talk about you. They're gonna criticize you. Right? They're gonna call you everything but a child of God, because what they're doing, it ain't nothing against you. It's the favor that's on you, and it's misplaced aggression again. They know they can't touch God. They just jealous because your God didn't give them what He gave you. So I'm here to tell you today: walk in your favor. Walk in your favor. Submit your life to God, and He will show you your favor. Right? Pray to God. Ask the Holy Spirit to show you in the Word what He has given you. And don't be jealous of anybody, whatever He gave anybody else. It had nothing to do with you. But I promise you, when we walk in the favor that God has on our life, God will bless you in immeasurable ways. You'll look back, ooh, and they said, man, they said them folks forgot that they were in a famine. God blessed them so much. All the pain you've gone through right now, God said, I'm going to bless you so much you ain't going to be able to remember it. So right now, this altar is open. This altar is open. Y'all came out in the rain today, and so this word today ain't for nobody that's not here. This word today is for you. So this altar is open to every man, woman, boy, and girl right now that you know there's a calling on your life. But somewhere along the line, you've lost focus. Somewhere along the line, you've questioned, God, really me? God, you mean tell me you're going to do that through me? God has given you somebody, and God has given you a vision so big that it scared you. And in your flesh, you cannot see how that's going to be accomplished through you. But this is what God never gives you a vision, then work Himself out of a job. Whatever God is showing you, it needs to be too big for you to know how you're going to accomplish it right now. So this altar is open right now for someone who wants to get focused back on your favor, get focused back on your calling. praise team. So while the praise